But, okay, I'm going by, I'll go by my watch. Maybe that's it. That clock's a minute ahead. It is. Okay, I'm going. I call the Middleville DDA meeting together. Really starting this out great. To order Tuesday, January 7th, 2025, at our new meeting time at 5:30. May I have a roll call, please? Oh, wait, I'll do pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll have an attendance of roll call, please.
Kim Jackham,
Here.
Kevin Smith,
Here.
Derek Dean,
Here.
Justine King,
Here.
Eric Schaefer.
Here.
Okay, approval, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the meeting agenda.
Excuse me, Ms. Chair. The treasurer had also added the bank reconciliation statements for December. So if you could potentially make a motion to approve the bank reconciliation statements as item B under informational items. Those have been printed out for each of the board members too.
Yes, I will make a motion to add 11B, add the bank reconciliation from December of 2024.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now I would entertain a motion on the approval of the amended agenda.
I'll just need you to tell me what you're amending.
That B, 11B,
That's it.
yes.
You,
Oh,
you just made a
You just
motion
did
to
that.
add that item. You're good.
You're good there. So,
we're good then?
yep, just now I gotta move on to the consent agenda.
Okay, so consent agenda. Before we do the consent agenda, there are 3 minor errors in the minutes.
They can't be consent agenda, then. You have to remove those from the consent agenda. Sorry, I should have said that
Oh.
earlier. So
So,
you're not approving those the way they are, you have to pull them from the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Well, we're not approving the consent agenda yet. We're in the process of,
But
Okay.
you're not approving the items on the consent agenda. You can't have any discussion on the consent agenda item.
thank you. If,
Yeah. You gotta
let's
remove them.
make a motion we can make a motion to approve the January bills and we'll handle the minutes at a later date.
okay,
You can just remove them. You can remove them from the consent agenda and you can put them on your new business. And then you can approve what's left on your consent agenda, then you approve your minutes on your new business.
So we've got to amend the agenda.
You would have to amend the agenda. We can work on that later. That's fine. If you want to review the bills.
okay. So then we're not, are we,
So I'll add these to a subsequent item that,
Okay.
since there's some clerical errors with the minutes, and we can review those at a later meeting if we can review the minutes for January.
I make a motion to approve the bills for January.
do I have a support?
Support.
We'll have a roll call on that, please.
Kevin Smith,
Aye.
Derek Dean,
Yes.
Justine King,
Yes.
Eric Schaefer,
Yes.
Kim Jackham.
Yes. Okay, I'm slightly
I would like-
lost on all the discussion.
I would like to make a motion to remove from the consent agenda, item A and B, and move those to new business, D and
No, we're
E.
not gonna, we'll do them at the next meeting.
No,
So,
we're moving them to new business, D and E.
My apologies. There are some issues with those items. My suggestion would be that we move to the public comments, since there's some secretarial issues with those, that we can take care of those and add those as a later item.
Okay,
At our next meeting.
I don't
So
know. I got so many people
Okay, let's just go to
telling
public
me.
comment. Move on.
So,
We do.
thank you.
I
Okay.
I did.
Thank you.
Okay, And
And
Please.
move them
So-
into new business.
You're saying to remove
No.
it altogether today.
Okay, so just motion to remove them, Eric.
I make a motion to remove items A and B from the consent agenda.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, those have been removed. So do we need,
So now will be a time to open the floor to public comments.
okay,
We're good.
And I do apologize. I'll bring items in regards to Robert's Rule of Order so we can discuss those because action items related to the consent agenda along with the meeting, all of this is related to the DDA bylaws. So that's something that's up to the board for you to make the decisions. If there's concerns about those items, you can address them to me, but it's not for other members to be interjecting with.
okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, so 6, public comments. Do we have any public comments tonight? Having none, we'll move on to reserve time, and we have no reserve time tonight. We have number 8, unfinished business. We have none of that. So now we are on to new business, which would be the election of our new officers. So I open the floor to nominations for our officer positions, and we'll start with the chair position.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Kim Jackham to continue on as chair of the Middleville DDA.
Support.
Any other nominations? Any discussion on that? Okay, so we will vote on that as Kim Jackham as continue on as our chairperson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. So we will now move on to the vice chair. I will make the nomination to have Justine King as our new vice chair of the Middleville DDA for this year.
I will support that.
Any other nominations on that vice chair position? Okay, having none, all in favor of Justine King being our vice chair for 2025? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. On to our secretary. So I would make a nomination for Eric Schaefer to be our secretary for 2025.
Support.
Any other nominations on that one? Any discussion on that one? Having none, let's vote. All in favor of Eric Schaefer being our secretary of the Middleville DDA for 2025? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, yay, we get to move on. Okay, Resolution 2501, the Michigan class.
So,
Doug,
excuse me, Ms. Chair, that we still have the committee appointments.
oh,
That's
sorry.
also part of the agenda item.
Yes,
That you'll see in regards to that memo, that there's the DDA bylaws have been attached to this, as well as the template for committee member appointments. That we have 4 committees that are looking to be established. We do not need an official recommendation or appointments at this time, but just want to make sure that the board is apprised of that, because the promotional committee is going to have items that are going to need to be addressed later this month, as well as the organizational committee will likely too. So if you can please reach out to the chair and we can start working on some of those committee appointments moving forward at a later date, that would be great.
thank you for correcting me and keeping me on.
And if anyone had any issues or anything that they seen, in related to the bylaws, certainly always reach out, but they're in your packet.
Okay, having said that, let's move on to Resolution 2501, Michigan class, and I will have you discuss that for us. Doug, please.
Perfect. So This is a recommendation to move to adopt Resolution 25-01, Certificate of Delivery, and resolution as part of the Michigan Class Registration Packet, and approve the Director of Community and Economic Development and the Treasurer as key contacts and authorized signers. The reason behind this is we currently have one signator, and also the Michigan Class is item that we've been moving forward with. The council has already taken action, but the only way to move forward with this would be to adopt the resolution to allow for the Michigan Class to be utilized. This, I don't know if there's specific questions, things you'd like me to get into with this. I'd be more than happy to talk about it.
Did you guys review this?
Mhm.
Is there
The
any?
village is seeing higher rates of returns through their affiliation with the Michigan Class. That's the main point that I would make. Beyond that, this is, it's fairly self-explanatory unless there's questions about something.
And actually, the township has had good success with Michigan Class,
Okay,
and the funds are readily available. I mean, it's not like you've got to wait a certain amount of time to access them.
I'd make a motion to move to adopt Resolution 2501, Certificate of Delivery and Resolution as part of the Michigan Class Registration Packet, and approve the Director of Community and Economic Development and Treasurer as key contacts and authorized signers.
I'll second that.
okay, and then you said we don't need a roll call on this?
It's a resolution.
Yeah,
You need
yeah,
to
I
take
thought
a
we
vote.
did need a roll call. Okay, so we will have any more discussion on that? Any questions, concerns? Okay, then if we could have a roll call, please.
Derek Dean,
Yes.
Justine King,
Yes.
Eric Schaefer,
Yes.
Kevin Smith,
Aye.
Kim Jackum.
Yes. So moved. Okay, on to new business C, which is your turn, Nate.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just, I'll work from up here. Doug, you have the, okay, perfect.
You want to start with the presentation first, or should we be looking at the workflow?
Yeah, so let's start with the presentation first. And those of you probably all know me, Nathan Mayman from Williamson Works, been working with you on updating the development and TIF plan. You can go to the next slide. How many of you, so I built a little bit of input or a little bit of background as far as DDA and TIF plans go, tax increment financing. I don't know how new all of you are or old. Just anytime I work with DDAs, if you haven't gone through the process of updating these plans before, which is usually pretty common, I try to give a little bit of that update. I know we don't have a ton of time tonight, so this may spill into another workshop meeting where we're talking about the sort of meat and potatoes of this plan, which is your development plan. But we can go to the next slide. I'll try to, if you have any questions on these, let me know. What is a downtown development authority? I did this with the business owners as well. Just kind of going through as an economic development tool. The state enables a variety of TIF, tax increment financing authorities in this, including anything from DDAs to corridor improvement authorities to TIFAs. TIF is not a tax increase, it's collecting increment from a base. Yours is collecting quite a bit of increment because it's been around for quite a while. This may be the third, possibly the third version of this plan. And again, stop me, I'm kind of going fast just so that we can get to talking about the, yeah.
It's also not a subsidy.
Right.
I think the public misunderstands tax incremental financing in every way. We have conversations during village council meetings on a regular basis because they don't understand it. They believe that it's the government handing money to somebody to do something. Mr. Hybor is a perfect example. His project, which is part of a TIF, that met resistance to some degree because they felt like the government was handing him money, and that's simply not the case. It's just creating a path so that it enables people to invest in our community. So the only takeaway that I have, at least from after reviewing the packet, is we really need to do a really good job of making sure that people understand that this is a tool in our toolbox to attract really enticing projects to our community and not getting a check written by by the state of Michigan in order to do it. So just to clarify any misunderstanding that the public may have by watching this video, we're certainly not having anybody write checks per se. It's just a delayed tax roll, if you will, right?
Yep, exactly. And
Okay.
it's collecting increment from the business owners, from the properties that are in your DDA district. So it's not the entire village, it's strictly your business districts. And the money goes back into that development area and into that business district. Yep. The act, the DDA Act outlines what you can use those funds for. So there are specific purposes and they can only be used for those purposes. It's strictly defined in the act. And your development plan lists specific projects. They have to comply with the categories that are listed in the act. And we can get to that. This is your DDA, these are your DDA boundaries. We are confirming all of this before we get to, we're working with the village on collecting all of the tax roll information from the assessor and the treasurer to make sure that this map is as up to date as possible for this update. Includes not only the downtown, but M37 as well, for any public that is watching. This is getting into sort of that, again, that tax increment financing and how that works. This is a pretty straightforward graph. Your base taxes set in the 99 or 98.
2001.
2001, yeah, I think it was somewhere around there. Any increase in taxable value above that base goes to the DDA. Not every taxing jurisdiction, but some of them. Typically, it's usually the local unit of government, the county. It can include things like library millages, transit. I don't believe yours includes all of those things. A lot of the early DDAs, 80s, include those. There's an opt-out provision that was added, so a lot of those taxing jurisdictions opted out when these were established in the late 90s, 2000s. Your existing plan projects, so I wanted to include, you probably all have a copy of your existing plan. Some of the existing projects that are in there, East Bank, Riverfront Development, you've already worked on a lot of these. Main Street Bridge replacement, of course, that's been completed. Sidewalk connections, that's an ongoing process. I know along M37, some of the properties, specifically in the more suburban areas of the village versus downtown. Pollinator Trail extension, that was completed. Period style lighting, signals and street signs, some of that has been completed. Streetscape improvements, of course, downtown here, that's been completed. Property acquisition as time has gone on. I don't know how many you have acquired, but that is an option. Spray fountain, of course, that has been completed, and facade improvements, which I know have been utilized by some of the businesses down here. So those are just examples of what's in your plan currently. As far as this plan goes, we encourage public engagement. You had a variety of these events. We helped you out with the first one, and then staff and DDA board members helped out with the remaining two on June 28th, July 19th, and August 24th. We held them down here downtown in the park. It included penny jar voting. It included maps listing input on facility improvements. And we broke all of that down into the remaining sites. So we had 1,053 pennies collected, approximately 35 comments. This is really good. You had people who were visiting the village. You had people who lived in the village. You had people, business owners, a lot of different folks participating based upon my experience and then talking with Gretchen when she worked down here on this. We broke this down into each category. So these categories for the penny jars were items that we typically see DDAs invest in that fall within the categories that are allowed in the Act. So park and green space improvements, core facility, public voted for, that's the most voted. A lot of discussion about improvements to or facilities or amenities in the East Bank Riverfront Park area. I sort of use it as a broad, I know it has several names, depending on who you talk to. But that was the highest voted. Promotion and marketing, 156. A lot of people indicated they liked the music series, they liked the market, they liked the events that the DDA put on downtown, and that drew them down here. They'd like to see more of that. Public art and placemaking, this can include things like murals. You've installed sculptures There was quite a bit of discussion regarding just liking what had been placed downtown. Public amenity improvements, there's some conversations about seating, maybe outdoor eating areas, additional places to hang out outside of what exists, not just downtown here, but also in other areas of the district. And then some of the other elements that fell sort of further down the list, gateway beautification, pedestrian improvements, landscaping improvements, facade and building improvements, street traffic calming improvements, and lighting improvements. So this is, again, the public. The public isn't always aware of things like what is facade and building improvements. They're going to vote for the things that they sort of know, which we get. But, things like street calming, things like lighting improvements, they get sort of some of those, but you've already done a lot of those in downtown. So it doesn't surprise me that they weren't high on the list. Any questions on brief overview of this? All right. Any other ideas, activity? This is really just a board. We wanted people to be able to participate in a way that maybe they didn't feel they were given with the penny jars. Requests for more flowers, recycling bins, splash pad. This has come up, I know, multiple times when we've been working downtown here, especially on in the East Bank. Riverfront area. Recreational opportunities, adding things that would draw people downtown, whether that's a playground, whether that's pickleball courts. There's a lot of sort of ideas thrown around. Just how do we get people to hang out down here outside of the music series, outside of the market? Events and arts, desire for community events. Again, that constantly came up. There's a lot. I mean, it does not surprise me. We were down here for the music series. We were down here for the market. People come down here like those sorts of things. And infrastructure and safety. There's a lot of discussion on crossings for M37. I live in a neighborhood on the west side of M37. I have kids with bikes. We want to be able to get downtown. We don't feel safe doing that. We don't even feel safe walking over there. Where is there another point of connection that we might be able to get traffic to slow down? Those types of comments and conversations. Interested in extending the farmers market season, so outside of just summer, maybe there's a winter market, and then cleaning up the rivers south of Middleville with volunteer assistance. I wasn't there for that conversation, but I don't know if there's an area along the river that people thought of as being unsightly. And then other ideas, other considerations, such as ice cream shop, train depot. I know that that's been worked on recently. I haven't seen the results of that, but improving the library or moving it maybe into the downtown area, and avoiding pot shops are also on October 21st, we had a business owners meeting. We gave an overview of the DDA plan, similar beginning to this presentation. An overview of existing priorities, the engagement results, and we started talking about implementation and brainstorming. So I gave them a worksheet at each table. I can't remember how many people were here, probably about
I was here and had to leave. Yeah, there
It was
was
like a
probably
dozen. Yeah.
about a dozen. So each table, we kind of worked through them together instead of at each individual table group. The next slide, though, we start breaking down some of the ideas that we came up with for development projects. So focusing on the top 5 or so penny jar categories, development projects for parks and green space improvements, children's playground, amenities that entice visitors to downtown more of the week, such as a splash pad, and then there's also a conversation about bringing the dog park downtown. Again, these are just kind of starting big picture, going small, working smaller. These are the ideas that came out of that discussion with the business owners. For promotion and marketing, I don't know why, but more banners and signs. There was conversation about Hastings, some of the banners that they place across their downtown. How can we better advertise some of these events? How can we have maybe light pole banners that reflect seasons or different seasons or maybe businesses? Move the print directory to something online that's easily updated. Apparently the business directory isn't always up to date. They'd like to see something be more regularly updated by staff. Maybe it's just a QR code that leads you to a URL with a list of businesses that, there's a sticker on each business window. Improve social media presence on different platforms outside of just Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. How can we reach younger audiences? as the social media landscape changes. Public art placemaking, add murals where appropriate and possible. A lot of DDAs pay for artists to come through. A few business owners talked about that. I don't know if anybody's willing, of course, there's upkeep involved with the mural, but that's something you can include in your development project list.
We were close to murals at one point, but then we switched DDA directors.
Okay,
A lot of the stuff that you're discussing has very much been in the last 6 years since I've been here.
yeah, and that's good. If there's already energy towards a lot of these, a lot of these projects, programming this list will not be, super complicated. Public amenity improvements, more outside eating areas, business owners definitely agree with that. How can we provide, if there's takeout food, are there areas where people can go eat with their dogs, with their kids? Activate the property on Main Street, which I believe is this one right here. How do we activate that property until it's developed? More benches and permanent furniture, and then winter amenities, geodomes, A-frames, fire pits, things like that. I know there was a fire pit idea brought up at some point, possibly in the park. How do we, a lot of downtowns are doing that now. Having a gas fireplace that's just turned on at a certain time in the winter and turned off, maybe only on the weekends, maybe it's all week long. That was another conversation. Other priorities, development projects, improve crossings on 37, improve alleyway lighting, string lights. How do we make the alleys more inviting? I don't know if any of you have been to Howell. Howell has done a really good job of sort of activating their alleys to make them more friendly for people to walk through. Moving the library downtown, and then improve gateway banners downtown. So not just temporary banners, maybe crossing the bridge, but improve daily signing on 37, or even at the 2 points in which the village enters from the future.
So previously, when that was brought up years ago, it was said that we would need an engineer to approve any of the banners on our light poles, and it was said maybe our light poles were not sturdy enough, and then M37 is a state property, so we couldn't necessarily do that. That's what I was told.
Okay, so we can look into. So if that's something you really want, so say we get into this conversation where we start working in this worksheet, and you want something like that. A step in that process would be, okay, if we know that we want to have a banner, can we replace 2 of the light poles, either structurally or with a new fixture that allows for us to do that? That could be a part of your project, because that would be all. With the M37 right of way, if you build that just outside of the M37 right of way, if MDOT's not going to allow you to do that, you could push it back a little bit and then have it be within the village right of way.
So
Just as a comment on that, I know there's plenty of towns and municipalities that work with the DOT to get banners approved. I think when it comes to public awareness and to have a banner run across M37 for Heritage Days or join our farmers market on Fridays or whatever to promote something in the downtown area. Ironically, people say, well, I've actually had people tell me, you should have a sign on M37, and I'm always referring them to the really expensive LED sign that we have on the corner of Main and 37. But to be able to just get it right away, I think it's just an approval process. And if we have to structurally build something that can hold a banner because the telephone poles aren't strong enough to handle that, I can see that as being a really great investment in just awareness, period. Both on the north and south side of
And I
Middleville.
think,
So.
a lot can change because we've been through village managers. We've now have new planning and zoning. We have a new village manager. We have a new village president. There's a lot that can go in the positive direction now.
For sure. I think that's an exceptional use of time is to figure out how do we activate, because I don't think we do nearly enough to activate 37 to leverage that enormous resource that we have in terms of traffic. And certainly we have obviously people in the DDA district that are on 37. It would be great to be able to help promote them as well.
Absolutely.
So they're not an island. And I think that to some degree they're treated as such as a result of that.
Yeah, you kind of forget that they're part of the DDA because they're on 37 and not in the traditional downtown, right? But they're still paying into your increment. You're collecting their taxes as well.
And I'm sitting on the board.
That's right.
Yes.
You are on that M37.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, it's supposed to benefit everybody, and obviously bringing activity to any part of the village is gonna theoretically benefit all of those businesses, whether or not they're stopping or they're learning that your business exists. So yeah, those are the types of things that we can look into on a this list is supposed to be sort of a menu of items, that's how we usually see it, that you want to focus on. So we do sort of a preliminary, is this part of the possible conversation? And then put it in the list so that then you can start tackling those finer details. And point to, yep, look at this, our public and our business owners support this, we think it's a great idea, we're gonna move in that direction. So I did give you a worksheet, and we have do we have an hour, or do we want to end a little bit before the?
So we should try to end like about 15 minutes before.
Okay, so we have about 45 minutes. All right. So I give you a worksheet, and this is something we do with any time we work with the DDA and go through the development plan. So I will typically take the existing categories that you have in the plan, unless you don't like them. Sometimes we use Main Street, the Main Street system. Sometimes we'll use categories that are just sort of low-hanging fruit, medium price projects, larger, bigger projects, maybe that might take more investment. Other times it's regional like this, like yours is very geographic, the way it's defined. I'm good with the way you have it because you do kind of focus on, it gives you the ability to look at where you're placing your investment. So you have your old downtown area, you have your West Main Street area, Arlington, South Broadway, and then an events category that we sort of created for events and promotion. I think this is good. Like I said, it's sort of it keeps you accountable to the various portions of your DDA district, and then allows you to sort of say, okay, well, we did a project here. What about a project here? I don't know how you feel about that, but that's sort of how I categorize it, at least for this worksheet. I did take out any of the projects that had been accomplished, had been completed. You've actually done quite a bit of work since the last plan was, whether or not you fully participated in some of those things being implemented. I don't know exactly for all of them, but I did pull those out. I kept the projects in here that hadn't been completed yet. For each category, I might have added a little bit of narrative to these. Just if there's, like the spray fountain feature, if this project is capped, we recommend adding additional detail. Where, what does that look like? What exactly is that? Railroad depot area. If this project is capped, we recommend adding additional detail. What is that? What does that mean? Does that mean landscaping around the building? Does that mean the building itself? I know that there's been work done on the building. Just kind of honing in some of those details. We like to stay broad in these so that you're not, overly prescriptive. That way, if things change as you're sort of implementing the development plan, you're not getting too specific. Obviously, funding changes. You just open up a building and you realize this can't happen. We want to make sure that we're being flexible as well. We also included the existing projects are in the color code that the geographic area is in, so gray, turquoise, blue. And then we also included some black text, and these are sort of recommendations, best practices based on the input that we've received from the public and from the business owners. So discussion came up, for example, in the first category for Old Downtown, identify strategic locations for additional bike amenities, bike parking, commission local artists to create murals, install fire pits. Sort of just ideas to kind of get you thinking whether or not you want to do those. It's entirely up to you. This list is entirely up to you. We work with a lot of DDAs, so we sort of know what projects have been completed, which ones have been successful. So if you have any questions on that, I can try to, at least in our experience, what we've seen and what we've worked with, I can provide that as well. Since we only have 45 minutes, I don't know if we'll get through all of this, but we can try, or we can have a discussion, think on it, and come back and really program this at another meeting. I'll leave it up to all of you.
I think I would like to wait until we fill a little more board positions, so we
Yeah.
have a wider input than just the five of us.
Yeah.
In some of these, I can make some notes and send out to you on what has been completed or what we have, or Doug and I, or whoever would like to send some things out, but I'd like to discuss more of this when we have a larger number of members on our board.
Okay, yeah, that is a great idea. Yeah, if you have, as far as, using our time here, if you have questions on what we've included or any other questions on DDAs, I'm here as a resource for that as well.
Yeah, this
So-
is a good start.
What does our timeline look like if the board was to review this and they were to draft recommendations in regards to priorities in February? How does that work in regards to your timeline and us being able to do what needs to be done to, recertify the TIF?
Yes, I think your existing plan expires at the end of this year, right?
Yes.
That's correct.
So, I mean, as long as the state has a record, the reason why these used to not be very regularly updated. The state in 2018 codified all of their TIF districts into one act and added a reporting requirement, which is now why these are more regularly updated. They're gonna start calling you in 2026 if you don't have this done, but it's not gonna be the end of the world. So we have a lot of time this year to work on this. If you wanted to start programming these at the next meeting, what we would do is get your priorities. We would talk to you about where in the phasing you want them. Is this a high priority, medium priority, low priority, big, small, low hanging fruit, medium sized project, big project. And then we would look at the estimated probable cost. Those are really hard to do now because of how much pricing has been swinging. We say this for rec plans too. We can put a price in there, but these things are changing rapidly, especially when it comes to concrete pricing, fixtures, everything else. I mean, those capital improvements, investments really change. We would do all of that. We would put it into the plan. There's some general housekeeping updating we have to do. There's references to the old act in your existing plan. We need to update your TIF tables, so we would get the property list from the village, establish what that is, and then look at projecting the amount of increment that you might see over the course of the next. Your existing plan is 15 years.
10 years, I believe, because we redid it after 10 years.
Yep. You have a 10-year plan. You can go with longer horizons than that. I've seen it in 20 years, 15 years, 25 years. We can keep it at 10 now if you want to do this 10-year update where you're coming back and looking at your plan, because otherwise there's no incentive to open it if it doesn't expire.
Well, and if this was done for like a longer term, like you're suggesting, would it be possible that the numbers, if there are expected budgets, that it's set in a way as to where they don't need to be revised? Like for example, our facade, what's shown in the 2001 in regards to how much is allocated towards any business hasn't changed. And prices have changed over 20 years.
Right, yeah. So these estimated costs that are in there are 2016 versus now, as we know, are just going to be, they're not even comparable anymore, which is fine. The act just requires you to program a development plan and identify what you think your program is going to cost, and then compare that to what you think you can collect in increment. And as a DDA, you have other funding sources as well. You have your tax increment revenues, you have millages, special assessments, revenue bonds, grants, donations. You can leverage that pool of money from elsewhere. Your increment isn't going to pay for everything you have on your list. I don't know if the DDA contributed to the bridge reconstruction, but as you know, that those dollars came from several sources. So they want you to be able to identify and articulate that in your plan so that yes, we are going to need to search for other funding sources to do this expensive development project we have on our list.
I think with our Main Street initiative, just in its very nascent stage, I think there's a lot of opportunity to collaborate and cross negotiate certain projects so that we are all aiming in the right direction collaboratively, and certainly from a village council perspective, I think it allows for us to, with a lot of confidence, know that the DDA is behind a specific project, or if the village council comes up with concepts that might be of interest, that we want to bring the DDA in to help solidify a concept. I think there's, just from a DDA perspective, I think I would like to see, in my humblest of opinions, more of a cross collaboration between the board, the village board, and the DDA, just so that we are all, like, we all have the same priorities. Because I think only until that happens can we really, like, one of the biggest questions that I have is, and it would appear, did we opt out of the library aspect of when we did this and set our base in 2001? Did we opt out of the library option? It would appear as maybe we possibly did.
Well,
That
it's
wasn't
not-
even a conversational point back then.
Yeah, no, and I
No.
agreed, but I'm assuming that we probably did.
Yeah, we would have to look at the timing from
Yeah.
when the DDA was established, because there's a handful of differences between us and Hastings in some of the places Mr. Muhammad is referencing. So I think that would require a deeper dive to see whether or not.
Yeah,
Yeah, like if it was established in 2001, there would be a record of the library would have had to take action
mhm,
to opt out. You're required to notify all of those taxing jurisdictions that would possibly be collected, that you're going to collect from them, and certain taxing jurisdictions can opt out. And I don't, your assessor or treasurer would know exactly which taxing jurisdictions they're withholding from. That would be in the data.
So
Might
we
be
can,
good to
we can send
clarify
a
that.
communication after this email and have that drafted
Yeah.
for the board.
because I
Engage
think
Mr.
there's huge opportunity. Obviously, we all talk about it. But
Mhm.
I'm not sure we're all aligned with regard to funding and things like that might be able to help.
Yeah, and as far as having the council on board, they will, they're the ultimate adopter of this document, but having their input, especially if they have projects in mind, and the DDA has similar projects in mind, making sure that that is identified in the project list and that you're working together.
Yeah.
I mean, starting now in your planning document is gonna make everybody, put everybody on the same page, which then hopefully makes the potential of those things more
Yeah.
successful.
For sure.
Any other questions for Nathan? Okay, great.
Yeah, and we follow the process. So the process I kind of brought before you tonight is how we typically handle this, but I know that, given some of the transitions and adding new board members, we're flexible with this. So yeah, if you have any ideas, questions, I'll be available for the next meeting. And we can be back and start to program this. Or if we want to pump the brakes and show the council what the input, because I have the input report, we can give that to council, let everyone see it,
I think it's a good idea.
give their comments. I'll leave that up to all of you. Just let me know what it is that you.
Well, your president and vice president are right there, so.
All right, I didn't know that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm just incognito tonight, so no big deal. But no, I think that would be phenomenal to, again, I think whatever effort we are doing that would require board approval, I don't see the DDA as an island. I see it as an extension to execute a plan. And
Yes.
I don't think, at least in my tenure, I will not do anything unless I feel and I will hopefully sway a board to agree with me that the only way that this is going to be successful is if we're all throwing darts at the same target and not have any misunderstanding of what priorities we have versus what the DDA has. So I think that's a really good use of time, is to educate the board on what does this look like and how can the board and the DDA participate collaboratively to make that happen.
Yep, yeah, I mean, it is an economic development tool arm of the
Yes.
village. So
Yep.
it should, everyone should be
For sure.
aligned.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, on to our number 10, which would be our director's report.
So going over the report, the visioning session, thank you, Mr. Mehmet. He's started with that conversation that this is ideally where we're having that vision is what is it that the DDA is prioritizing, how, where, when, why do we see those types of items, being taken care of. The next item being the board retreat, we're going to have some discussions. Hopefully that'll be next month that we can start figuring out when to, figure out for our recession planning purposes and so forth. But committee establishments, I've also placed that on here because we will need to touch base on those. The only other thing I'll mention is that, well, other updates. So the current new job position has not been posted as of yet. I believe there's discussion about potentially making that a full-time position from where it was previously listed as part-time. So no job posting has been made as of yet. I don't know
How
if
does
there's-
that affect us financially?
So financially, it's going to affect us because where you see the new line item shown as, the assistant role.
Yeah.
That's not going to be utilizing any funds until that position is filled.
Mhm.
So we're going to see, additional funds that could potentially be reallocated from that line item, especially if we're, cutting it close in other areas. Beyond that, the person was to prioritize in regards to events. We're going to have some discussions about whom is going to assist with events and start working on that before we're able to find a new position or a new person for that position. So we'll make it happen either way. But those would be the primary ways it affects us. In February, I'll have a report showing a cost benefit analysis that can help with some of this information and showing it in regards to the efficacy, what's going to be expected from that person, time allocation, so forth. So hopefully that information helps a little bit more with addressing that question. But until a position is filled, we figure things out.
Any other questions for Mr. Powers? Okay, for your reading information, you have your village manager's report, and we did add the bank reconciliation statements in here. And then do we have any public comment?
Good evening. I'm Mackenzie. I'm lived in the village off of Town Center, and I'm the village pro tem. So I wanted to congratulate y'all on the first meeting of the year and congratulate y'all's appointments. A couple of things listening to the presentation, I think it might be a good chance to do a joint workshop, not to make any decisions, but to have that joint workshop between council and village board members to narrow down and not waste any time, but also be more effective with their time and making sure we're, granted, we have all the time in the world, but at the same time, we don't have the time in the world. Y'all know how the year goes. So, so I look forward to working with y'all on that, and hopefully we can get something scheduled, and at least that's my opinion. But yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we will go to 13, which is DDA board member comments. We'll start with you, Derek. Anything?
I will say just the update on the engagement, like seeing the feedback. I live in the village. I can second a lot of those items, especially. So just it's cool to see some consistency with residents, and I agree getting both boards to align, I think would be a great use of resources and time.
I just have to say, after just a few months, I already feel better about the DDA and where we are and the direction we're heading in.
Perfect. Mr. Smith?
Oh, hi. I do too, Mr. Schaefer. This is a long time coming, and I think it is impossible to look around the downtown area and see the progress that we've made over the years and not question why that happened. And I think a lot of that was, one could say great leadership, and I would also say great teamwork. I think it's incumbent upon all of the members here and certainly on the council, the village council, to share a vision. And unfortunately, due to a lot of transitions and a lot of change and a lot of things in the last 4 years, at least in my tenure, I don't really feel like there's been that target that we could collectively aim at. And I think that we all want the same thing. It's just been really hard to iterate it in a way that makes sense for both boards to really just come together and join arms and say, hey, this is our village. You are a key part of that progress. How do we leverage the great people on this board to push forward and continue to make progress happen in the downtown area and certainly in the DDA district? I'm excited for that. And I have a lot of great ideas as a resident. I have certainly a lot of great ideas, both for the downtown area and certainly the M37 corridor. I think we really have a great opportunity to lift the Middleville brand, whatever that looks like. I really think that we have a great opportunity, especially with the adoption of this Main Street program. I would hope that you've gone through the training. It is a lot. It's a lot of hours, but there is a lot depending on volunteers and focusing on bringing the community to a center and saying, we're gonna do this collectively. We have a great group of volunteers here, but we need so many more if we want to be a success story that's featured in the Main Street program. Almost every one of those examples had hundreds of volunteers that contributed to the outcome. So I'm so hopeful with the potential of having Mr. Powers and the assistant that's going to be engaged, really purpose-driven to make that Main Street program a success, to certainly activate a lot of your initiatives here as well. I just cannot see anything but a bright path forward for the village in general. So I'm excited for that and look forward to working collaboratively with everybody here.
Your turn.
Thank you for the vice chair. Feel fancy. Everybody knows that I love the words workshop and collaboration. So I'm just looking forward to some of those upcoming and figuring this all out with a hopefully full board soon. And then of course with the village as well. So I'm just excited for a new year, fresh start.
Okay. So my first thing is if anybody would like to help take down the DDA part of the decorations, I would welcome your help. It's that corner with some ornaments, the trees over here, the Christmas display. I put them all up with my grandkids. So I would love some help taking them down. So please get with me if that fits in your schedule. I'll try to work around your schedule. Mackenzie, congrats on your assistant position there. Kevin, congrats on your president position. You weren't here, so I couldn't do that before. I second what Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Smith say. I am extremely excited about Doug's leadership and your two leaderships. Yours continued at the township up there. I think this DDA board in the village is gonna go leaps and bounds with the new TIF plan, the Main Street, the people that we're gonna get on this board and the people that we have. And as always, I thank all of you for giving your volunteer time, once again, away from your families. And any time you'll give this year, I truly, truly appreciate it. And also support that joint workshop. And Nathan, thanks for giving your time and rearranging your schedule to be here. It's much appreciated. So any other comments up here? With that being said, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
A motion to.
Support.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
That's habit, by the way. I was always the one. Mr. Craner, I would like to make a motion.
Right, like.